When a utopian future turns out to be the most dystopian future, well, we're here to check it out today. Okay, everybody, today we're going all the way back to 1976. Can you believe it's been that long? To look at a little motion picture that was kind of revolutionary in its day, kind of cool. Some people loved it, few people didn't. It is what it is. It doesn't make a difference. We're going to talk about the one, the only, Logan's Run. Before we go any further, though, once again, and as always, to the trailer.
MGM puts the future in the palm of your hand. This is the 23rd century, where sophisticated technology has created an automated world of wonders. A world beyond imagination until now. It is filled with beauty and the vitality of youth. Pleasure is the way of life. But in the 23rd century, life lasts 30 years. Not one day less, not one day more. When the crystal in the palm of your hand flashes its final message, your time is up. But there are a few rebels who run in search of sanctuary. Logan, trained to enforce the law, dares to become a runner himself. He and the girl who loves him become the hunted when they set off on Logan's Run, a fantastic adventure through the 23rd century. The 23rd century will be here sooner than you think. Coming this summer, Logan's Run.
Alright, this little gem was directed by Michael Anderson. Did a few things you're going to remember, maybe some not. Doesn't make a difference. Anyway, we're talking about he did little things like Millennium, Around the World in 80 Days, the one and only Orca, which I've reviewed and you know I love, and The Dam Busters, and The Naked Edge, and All the Fine Young Cannibals, and Conduct Unbecoming, and Shake Hands with the Devil, and Dominique. So, he had some things that might jump out at you, some things that might not, but some cool titles in there, and you can't knock that. Playing Logan 5, and I love how the characters all got numbers after their names, it just makes my goddamn day. Anyway, the one and only Michael York. Remember the run he was on in the 70s? Are you shitting me? Let's take a look. Of course, he was in the one and only Cabaret with Liza Minnelli and Joel Grey. He was in stuff like The Three Musketeers and The Four Musketeers and Murder on the Orient Express and The Island of Dr. Moreau and Lost Horizon and The White Lions and Great Expectations and Zeppelin and, of course, you know, all those Austin Powers movies, you know, Spy Who Shagged Me and Goldmember and Man of Mystery, whatever it was. You know Michael York, you've seen him around, been around for a long time, big career, is what it was. Playing Francis Seven, and an actor who, damn it, was gone way too soon. Because I think really he was one of the unsung actors of that era who just should have been around longer and had a bigger career. It's a shame he died. We're talking about Richard Jordan. Let's do this. Of course, he was in the one and only Raise the Titanic. He was in Chato's Land, and Valdez is Coming, and Dune, and Solar Babies, and Rooster Cogburn, and Posse, and Time Bomb, and Gettysburg, and The Hunt for Red October, and Old Boyfriends, and in a movie which I'm going to review. I keep talking about reviewing it. I'm going to get there. The one and only with Kurt Russell. The Mean Season. Fucking phenomenal movie that nobody ever talks about. I can't figure out why. Playing Jessica 6. Oh, and looking unbelievably cute, Jenny Agutter. Ah! Let's go. We're talking about she's been in little things like The Eagle Has Landed, and Dark Tower, and The Survivor, and Child's Play 2, and The Avengers, and Dominique, and Secret Places, and The Riddle of the Sands, and Amy, and of course, she was in An American Werewolf in London. Come on, we all remember that. Plus, she was in tons and tons and tons of TV shows, so she's always been active, always working. Is what it was. Let's keep moving. Playing the old man, simply because he can't remember his own name. We're talking about Peter Ustinov. Oh, yes. Let's go. We're talking about he was in little things like Death on the Nile, and Spartacus, and Viva Max, and Blackbeard's Ghost, and The Sundowners, and The Egyptian, and Hotel Sahara, and Romeo and Juliet, and The Comedians, and he did writing and directing work and stuff like that. So, back in the day, you knew Peter Ustinov when you seen Peter Ustinov. It's just the way it was. And playing Holly 13, the one and only Mrs. Farrah Fawcett. Let's go. We're talking about she was in The Apostle, she was in Sunburn, and Saturn 13, which you know I reviewed, and Dr. T and the Women, and of course the Cannonball Run, you know who didn't love that, and See You in the Morning, and Extremities, and she was in TV work a lot. We're talking about did that movie The Burning Bed, and of course she was in Charlie's Angels, and she will always be remembered for the poster. You remember the poster. Just the way it goes, was a cultural icon for her time. Let's keep moving. And playing the Doc, Michael Anderson Jr. Oddly named right after the director, because it's his dad, is the way it went. But he had a decent career. Let's take a look. We're talking about he was in little things like The Sons of Katie Elder, and The Sundowners, and Major Dundee, and The Greatest Story Ever Told, and every TV show. I mean, come on, man, like Hawaii Five-0, and Cannon, and Streets of San Francisco, The Martian Chronicles, if anybody remembers that, and Chips, and Murder, She Wrote. So, was around, was in a lot of shit, just the way it went. And I'm not going to get into this so much because it ain't really an acting role, but, you know, playing Box's voice was Roscoe Lee Browne. Was around, did a lot of shit back in the day. TV work, especially, is what it was. Let's get going with the story. Okay, everybody, we're going to do this in 90 seconds or less, so we can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving, so we can get to where we would much rather be. The summation. Sometime in the future, mankind is living in cities that are completely domed in. Well, it's one big city, but it is what it is. And they're completely domed in because apparently there was a giant war, and there was pollution, and there was all kinds of shit that took place. And this was what society has turned into. Cities run and controlled by machines. And in that city, you have no responsibility. You have nothing to do except to exist. Everybody just hangs out, and all that life is one big sex orgy mixed in with some drinking and shit like that. Literally, they live in a place where they have malls with sex shops, and they go in there and all kinds of crazy shit takes place. They have little teleporters like Star Trek, where basically you can get into it and just jump around for people's houses and have meaningless sex. It is a weird and wild society. There's no love, there's no marriage, there's no parenting, there's nothing. There is only pleasure in the life that it gives you. Well, with anything, there's a hitch. The hitch is at the age of 30, you gotta go. That's right, folks. They put you in this giant thing that looks like a bug zapper, and it blasts you into oblivion with the promise that you'll be renewed. Whatever. Now, a lot of people, they don't really take to this because they have a doubt here, they have a doubt there, and that's where the Sandmen come in. And Sandmen, well, guys like Logan and guys like Francis, what they do is when somebody tries to run, they basically air them out, they kill them, they exterminate them, they do what they got to do and blast this guy off oblivion to keep the natural order. One person dies, one baby is born. It's just the way it goes. Well, one day, Logan, he takes out this runner, and then he takes the artifacts from his pocket and puts them into the scanner because the master computer needs to look at everything, and they see the Ankh, which is a symbol of sanctuary. Well, during that time, they give Logan a little bit of a mission. They said, listen, you are going to turn into a runner. We're going to shave a few years off of your lifespan, make your hand blink red, and you're going to go join those that try to run this little resistance group. And you are going to become one of them and tell us where they are so we can go in and solve this problem. But the thing is, Logan finds out nobody's ever been renewed. Nobody's ever survived. Nobody's ever been reborn. He's got some problems. In the midst of all that, he meets this girl. She kind of threw herself into the hump chamber where they just beamed around from houses, where she starts talking to him and talking to him about running. And now he knows that is his in to this whole society. So he gets her confidence and he goes off on this mission to fulfill it. Meanwhile, he has his best friend, Francis. Francis is very dogmatic. He believes 110% of whatever the master machine tells him. He says that they will be reborn, and he believes it without question. If anybody even questions what the master computer says, Francis has a problem with it. And it's just the way he goes. Well, moving along, Logan gains the trust of young Jessica. And he basically goes off and sets on this mission to become a runner. And through hook, through crook, long story short, he winds up really becoming a runner and really taking off. His friend Francis goes into hot pursuit, basically trying to stop him and cover for him at numerous points and at numerous times. And they finally escape. They finally get out of the city, and they find a society left behind. They find basically Washington, D.C., overgrown with vines. They've never seen an old face before. Thanks, Abe Lincoln. They run around, they find an old man, and their whole mission is to bring him back to society. To show the world that you don't have to die at 30. To tell them there is no such thing as renewal. Will Francis stop them? What'll take place? It is what it is. You'll figure it out. Anyway, that's it. A movie in a nutshell. I kind of dragged down longer than I should have. Who cares? Let's get going to the summation. Okay, everybody. Does Logan's Run work? Yes. Logan's Run works. It was a beloved old sci-fi movie that they actually kind of morphed into a TV show for a couple of years, and that kind of sucked. It is what it is. But this motion picture holds a fond place in the memories of me and many other people, simply because it does work. Before we get to what works and some of the things that might not, let's look at the big three. We're talking about the directing. The movie is directed fine. It looks good. It's all you need to know. It moves at a good pace, keeps a good clip. It's directed, edited, and put together just dandy. The writing's solid. I mean, you're not going to mix this shit up with like Dr. Zhivago or something, but the writing is actually really good. For the kind of motion picture that it is, it uses good dialogue and good writing to move along the plot point, to fill you in when you need it to be filled in, to give you a good amount of suspense, and you sit there and you can reflect upon that with Logan as he's finding out the realities through a nice, tautly little worded script. And the acting! Listen, you got some heavy hitters going on. Michael York always delivers. He delivers in this. He delivers great. Richard Jordan, who I think probably did the best job in the motion picture, is phenomenal as Francis. You can see the pain and anguish on his face, literally, as his best friend is slipping into this world where he's like, you're becoming the very thing that we have sworn to take out in society. How could you do this? How could you do it? You can see the pain and the anger and everything in his face. Richard Jordan delivers in this. It's just the way it goes. Phenomenal actor. One of my favorites from the time. Is what it goes. Jenny Agutter, in and out. I hate to say this. There's points of it where she's really doing pretty well, and then there's points of it where she looks like she just got somebody to feed her the line 3 seconds before, and she just regurgitates it. So her acting is a little bit on and off, flat and then good, and then flat and then good. But the rest of the cast kind of nails it. And Jenny's a good actress. She's been in other movies and shit like that. It's not really against her. It's just, it is what it is in this one. Now, what makes this motion picture work again? It's a great dystopian tale hid inside of a utopian future. If, at face value, everything in here seems amazing. It's like, what? We ain't got to work. We ain't got to do anything. We got to produce. We serve no function other than to play, party, live, and have sex. So, on its surface, that seems like a great sell. Until you realize that all the great things in life, like love and marriage and family, all that kind of stuff, are basically devoid of children are devoid of happening. These things don't even enter into their world because that world is so self-absorbed where everybody's just about themselves that it's really the most dystopian future you could ever imagine. And in a future like that, the machines have to run everything because mankind is basically a giant child that can't control its own destiny. And you feel that, and you see that, how they live in this world and they think it's wonderful, but as soon as they realize the clock is running out, people start to break. And as soon as that happens to Logan, you see when all of his hopes and dreams of renewal, when all of his ideas about being reborn are taken away from him, and he realizes that that's not going to happen, that this party's over, you start to see what happens to this guy and how everything changes and his priorities change and how he basically shifts from being the hunter to the hunted, although his motivations can be questionable still at times up until you see he's really broken free and he's off and he's going. Hidden in there is a friendship tale. I mean, you have the tale of Logan and you have the tale of Francis. Two guys that are inseparable, best friends, do everything together, hang out together, and you can see there's a great love between these guys. They are really, really great friends. So when they find themselves at opposite ends of the spectrum, even in their fight at the end of the movie, it's not just a fight, it's a fight almost like a, an Obi-Wan, an Anakin type thing, between two people that care about each other and love each other, but now find themselves at different ends of a spectrum, and they're almost fighting with each other strangely out of a duty, Almost it's like what they have to do, not compared to what they should be doing. And you can see that in the final moments of friendship between, which I don't want to give too much away, but Francis and Logan, that they are still great friends and they still love each other. It is what it is, so that angle is cool. Also, you have the love story angle between Logan and Jessica. In a world where there is really no love and there's no caring, there's no thing about me and you are going to stick together for the rest of our lives. And they find that, and they become that, and they become kind of what we are, or, you know, whatever our society revolves around, that they go back to those days and they find out maybe this is a better way to live. Maybe this is what we want. Maybe I'll be more fulfilled if it's me and you raising a baby as a team and we go out and do our thing. That's another story to this. And so there's a lot of different little angles on top of the dystopian crazy future and the friendship and the love story. There's a lot of little stories woven in that are going on at one time. Now, with any motion picture, there's good and there's bad. It's just the way it is. Is there some bad in this motion picture? Well, yeah, there's a few problems here and there. We'll get into it. We already talked that Jenny Agutter, her acting was up and down, but that's fine. You know, it's good enough. The story does have some plot holes. It seems like everybody in this future doesn't have a job or doesn't do anything. At least that's implied. But then you see people with jobs, like the Sandman or the doctor or the nurse, and you're like, do people have jobs? You don't really see enough of what goes on in that world, and it doesn't really get explained to you quite enough so that you can get a full picture of what's taking place. So there's kind of like these quasi, your brain is filling in the blanks. Does everybody just sit around and get loaded and hump? Or do they actually have some kind of task to do? But it doesn't seem that way, where some people do, some people don't. There's breeders, there's doctors, there's Sandman, and then there's just a bunch of people that hang out. But you never really know explicitly for sure. So there's some vagueness in there. Is that really a problem? But it could have been better flushed out. Also, the special effects. I know for the time when this motion picture was made, they really bragged about the special effects in this. It had holograms and shit like that in it, which was kind of revolutionary. It had some decent effects throughout the motion picture, some great matte paintings. There's all kinds of cool stuff in there. But there's times when the effects just legitimately look like dog shit. And I hate to say this, anytime you see the city, the big domed city from the outside, it looks like somebody made it in their garage and just filmed it. And then when you see the domed city from the inside, when you see the buildings and the cars on the rails and the whole thing, it looks utterly like shit. It really does. It looks like somebody just built it out of a toy, threw it in the room, and they filmed it. And it really kind of pulls you away from it. When you see the giant lakes amongst the buildings, and the water doesn't even look remotely to scale. Nothing looks right. It just looks like a little play set that somebody said, well, fuck it, this will work. We'll just film this. Good enough. And then the other scenes, you know, will make them look a little bit better. So some of the effects, with age and with time, especially considering that these things came right before Star Wars, right before Alien, right before Star Trek, the motion picture, where the effects in those are light years ahead of what you see in this. One of those things that a couple years of technology really make a difference. And finally, you got to kind of laugh. I don't know if it's a bad point, but basically the future of mankind looks like a giant shopping mall. It looks like a giant shopping mall. That's what they were kind of like going at, and that's what it kind of looked like. It looked like they just found a mall, and someone made some big sets, obviously, and just kind of just filmed in there. Like everybody's future, this utopian future, was just to hang out at a shopping mall and get loaded and banged. Basically, that was the idea of the ideal state of mankind. So there's some funny social commentary going on in there, hidden and woven in amongst all the other shit taking place. Anyway, in the end, Logan's Run is a solid, entertaining, fun, emotional, sometimes thought-provoking little flick from the mid-70s that nobody should overlook, nobody should forget about, and everybody should go out and check out and have in their little library of motion pictures and their little library of memories and enjoy it for what it was. It was really cool and not bad. And if worse comes to worse, you're just going to be checking out Jenny Agutter in her little outfit through most of the movie. I mean, she looked pretty damn hot. All right, everybody, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to a stranger. Always help a friend. But above all else, never, and I mean ever, take any bullshit from anybody. See you soon.